You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
I was going to give an update on Ian Cook from Ian Cook, I Cook Foods, Ian is standing against the current Premier of Victoria in the upcoming election in November. And so we'll get some information from him. I was meant to go to his launch on Sunday, but I had to cancel the launch because I was also meant to go to Shepparton to speak at a function up there, but that got cancelled because of the floods. So,
I was supposed to go to Ian Cook's as well
on
Sunday because I also had a function. And at this particular function, actually, you've got a link to this particular function in a roundabout way. And at this particular function, a lady called Katie Hudson, and I'll give an update on Ian Cook too because
Who's Katie Hudson?
Katie Hudson is the director of the Hawthorn Football Club. Her father, Reg Poole, played in the 1961 grand final side. And if you remember back in those times...
Reg who?
Reg Poole played in the back pocket, number 29. He swapped his jumper as the custom or the tradition was back then with the opposition. Now, he got Graham Eon, who played for...
Eon FM.
His brother Barry, if you know... Barry Eon played for Footscray. He became a radio personality.
Barry Eon?
Yes, in Adelaide and Sydney.
How do you spell Eon?
I-O-N.
As opposed to E-O-N.
Now, Barry Eon. Now, anyway, Graham was number 17 and Reg swapped jumpers and here was the number 17. And so I thought... So the presentation, actually the garment's going to be presented to him by Ross Abbey and the past players at Footscray at a function. But anyway, I Googled Graham Eon from where he left Footscray and he went and coached up in the Riverina. Now, this is where it's a roundabout story.
It is.
And one of the teams that he coached was Mara, M-A-R-R-A-R. And do you realise that my grandfather was the coach of Mara in their second year and they won a premiership? And he was a playing coach and a teammate of yours, and you wouldn't even remember, came from Mara. The only VFL player to come out of Mara, and his name was John Fox.
Yep.
Do you remember John Fox?
John Fox was the captain of the 1963 reserves or seconds grade premiership, which I played in. In 1963, I played in it from school, and we won the grand final in 1963 on the MCG before the main side won the grand final in 1963 against Hawthorn.
Yes. Well,
John Fox, he was the captain.
He was the captain. Now, he came from Mara. He's the only player that's ever come out of Mara. They won the premiership last year, and incidentally, Terry Langtree is still involved there. Now, Terry's either his grandfather or his great-grandfather was president when my grandfather was at Mara. That's in 1919.
Fantastic.
So it's over 100 years old, Mara Football Club. I've got the photo at home of my grandfather with his team.
Fantastic bits of news, Don.
And do you realise they were playing a team and they were being beaten in the final this particular year? No, Mara.
Did you say, did I realise?
No, well, you wouldn't have realised, but I'll tell you what happened. It's been documented. The ball, they were losing. Mara were losing. The ball went over the fence. It came back punctured. Somebody had got their pocket knife out, punctured the ball. They had to call the game off because back then they only played with one ball. They had to come back the following week and Mara won.
Don, it's this amount of trivia that you have in the back of that cranium of yours. Mind you, it's pretty fertile, that cranium. You've got no hair on it to drain all its resources out of your body, so it is mind-boggling. Now, Don,
getting back to Ian Cook.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you. I mentioned Ian Cook and you went on with that story.
But anyway, he is making inroads out in that Mulgrave electorate, and the rusted-on Labor people, as soon as he introduces himself, they start to swing across because they've all heard of the I Cook food saga, and it doesn't matter what political persuasion you are, that is a complete injustice as to what happened in his business.
It absolutely is, Don, and we're going to speak to Ian. we're going to speak to Ian during the week, and we're going to come back next week. We're going to say just where we're up to, because it's not far away from the election. Now,
what about some shout-outs? I've got two. Amy Rogers, who is an avid listener.
Amy
Rogers. And
Yep.
also Deborah Atkins.
Well, hang on,
met Deborah.
Where'd you meet Amy?
I met her on Sunday
Well, you
at
gotta
this
say-
particular function.
Well, you've got to say
She
that,
was a little
Don.
bit embarrassed about listening, but she
She
said-
embarrassed about listening?
Yes, she's a little bit embarrassed. When
What is
said,
she embarrassed about?
Well, I don't know. People are all funny. But Deborah Atkins, remember I said to you a lady...
Hang on a minute. I know Deborah Atkins.
yeah, she wants you to reply to your text.
I've replied. I
Well,
spoke
she
to
said-
Deborah a couple of days ago.
Well, she said I met Deborah on the station at Richmond after the grand final.
I've
and
spoken
she said,
to Deborah.
why doesn't he reply to my
I've spoken
text?
to Deborah.
Well,
And now, Amy is embarrassed to say that she listens to this, is she?
yes. Oh, well, no, she was a little shy. She's not
Shy?
Yes, when she approached.
Who is she?
Well, I don't know who she
Well,
is.
she
It's just
came-
like, what do
she
you do?
came
Do
up
you-
and said, "You're Don Scott, are you?" And you said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Well, I listened to the podcast and I think it's fantastic." And you said, "I'll give you a shout out." Is that how that worked?
Well, she said, you know.
She
was
said,
a
"Oh,
little
what?"
little bit coy.
About you mentioning Amy listens to the podcast. Oh, but that's extraordinary. Why would she be embarrassed about listening
Well, I
to
don't
this?
know. We're all
doc-
different, aren't we?
Right. And now,
Do you know that Channel 9 are putting on a women's football show at between the 11 and 12 on a Sunday? Have they realised that there is a void in the market, or is Channel 7 a bit slow to follow up?
or are they just trying to get some content to fill in the day?
Who? Channel 9?
I don't know. They
women's
were doing a women, aren't they? They're doing the best woman sports person, best sports woman in Australia competition. Aren't they doing that? Like the best woman best sportswoman in Australia. Aren't they doing a show on that? I don't know. I don't know what they were. Someone said they were.
You don't follow the races, but there were a racehorse from Mornington won the big race the other day.
Yes.
Geiger Kick.
Yep.
Trained by a young boy,
What
Douglas.
race?
Clayton Douglas, the
Cox.
Everest. The Everest.
Oh, they're trying to pinch the most famous race from the
Well,
Melbourne Cup.
the horse won about $6 million.
I know, they're just trying to buy fame.
I understand, but it's still the best horse. In actual fact, this horse knocked off Nature Strip that won over in England,
Yeah.
and they consider Nature Strip the best
Do you
sprinter.
think they will end up buying the best horse race in Australia, the most famous one from the Melbourne Cup? Throw money at it?
Well, there's a lot of money. As I said, it won $6 million, and the horses won $7 million
Well,
in total.
say it was a $100 million race. Say if you win the Everest, you win $100 million. Would you say that would make it the biggest, the most prestigious race in Australia, horse race? The Melbourne Cup is the most prestigious race in
They're
Australia.
trying to pinch it, but
Of course
still
they are.
creating interest. I mean, these horses are going, the best horses, well, you got Nature Strip, the best
Yep.
sprinter in the world,
That's right.
participating. Money will drag them up there. This horse went from
I want to ask you.
Melbourne to Sydney to compete. It's its fifth race. It came from behind, and it's interesting watching that race. I wonder if the horse had lost, whether they'd criticise Craig Williams, the jockey, because he was left at the barrier. He was second last coming around the turn. It was an unbelievable run
Well, of course
by
they would have
Geiger
criticised
Kick,
him.
and he just nutted
Well, that's
the others right on the line.
Well, that's all he had to
Yet-
do.
That's right. But would they have been
course they would have.
critical had the horse lost?
Of course they would have done. If you say that's how it unfolded and he lost, of course they'd criticise him, but he won. So this is just hypothetical nonsense. Now I want to ask you a question about horse racing, and you think I'm being...
I haven't finished on that topic either.
Go ahead.
Well, in the aftermath, I don't know why, I think it was, I don't know which channel was televising it.
7.
because- Was it?
10.
Why did they do
Eddie
a
Maguire
cut? Why
is
did they
doing-
do a cut in the aftermath to Jamie Carr at Caulfield doing the barracking of the horse? Now,
Doing the what?
Barracking for the horse, because it is well known that she and Clayton Oliver were an item. and it's now finished. But why would they do a cut to Jamie Carr after Guy Kick had won the race? I think they're being a little bit intrusive. You're right. Oh, excuse me.
I'm sneezed. No, Don, I have no idea why they cut to Jamie Oliver or whatever his name is.
Jamie Carr.
Jamie
please.
Carr. Now, Don, this is a serious question because I don't know. Someone said, now, did Durkin win the Caulfield Cup? Durkin? No? Have I got that wrong? No. Who won the Caulfield Cup?
I don't take any...
I thought a horse called, I think Durkin did. And they said it had kicked on, so to speak, ever since it had been gelded. Why?
It was first emergency, wasn't it?
I think I should. I'm saying I wrote down here that Durkin won the Caulfield Cup, and they said it only won because it had been gelded. Why, when you cut a male horse's agates out, does it run better? That's my question.
Concentrate. There's a saying in the horse world. You ready?
Am I ready?
You ready? Geldings, you can tell. Mares, you ask. And stallions, you negotiate with. That's how you handle horses. So, in other words, to have his, as you put it, his agates cut out makes the horse concentrate a little bit better because his mind is elsewhere, and stallions are not the easiest sort of horses to handle and negotiate. So you've got to negotiate with them.
Hang on, now what it says? The Caulfield Cup is, I'm just looking it up. Why doesn't it say? The Caulfield Cup, Saturday the 15th of October, Absurd run clinches historic Caulfield Cup after late emergency drama. What horse was it?
I thought it was the first emergency, wasn't it?
Absurd run. Absurd, is that the name of the horse? Now here it is. Durston. I said Durkin. Durston, ridden by Michael D, wins the Carlton Draft Caulfield Cup. And they said, so it's Durston. I'm sorry, I said Durkin. No, I didn't. I said Durston. And because it had its agates cut out, it ran better. So what are you saying, Don? That
well, I just gave you what.
No,
in
you
the
gave
horse
me a whole lot of
world
cliches
about horses.
I want you to tell me clinically why, if you cut your balls
well, he
off,
concentrates a little bit. I told you, geldings you can tell what to do. So you can tell a gelding, you can kind of boss a gelding to a degree. Mares, you've got to ask. You ask them to do something. You encourage, And with stallions, you put up with a little bit to get a little bit. You negotiate.
Don, please. I'm asking you as a layman.
I've just told you.
No,
what
you
else?
haven't.
Now,
You've given me cliches about mares, stallions, and geldings. I'm asking you, if you have a horse, I presume is a male because it's got balls, agates, and you cut them out, why does it suddenly improve?
Stallions are only interested in reproducing.
So
their mind wanders, my friend.
So when they're running in a horse race...
It doesn't matter anywhere. It could be in the stable. It could be leading them out. It could be whatever.
I'm asking you this, Don, seriously. So when the barrier gate opens and a stallion jumps out, if it has a female horse in front of it, its mind wanders onto the aroma and the pheromones coming out the arse of the horse in front of it.
I don't know about the racing side of it, but
that's what I'm asking you.
Because no, in an actual race, but before race or whatever else.
So if
I've seen stallions mount other horse with somebody on board. Stallion mount a mare
in the day
when somebody else is riding. So two riders. And
in the day, Don, when you were the captain of Hawthorn and going to all those premierships and being the bon vivant, the man about town, if they'd cut your agates out, would that have quietened you down a bit? Would you have been a lot quieter in those days, Don, and you wouldn't have been on the sniff most of your life?
I think your hormones or pherols or whatever
pheromones
were far higher. Yours were far higher than mine ever got.
I'm asking you,
ever
Don,
got.
If they'd
I think you could answer
out,
the question yourself.
When you were the
you
big,
could answer your own
tough
question.
Leviathan at Hawthorn, if they'd cut your agates out, Alan Jean said, Hey, laddie, come here, Don. I want to cut your balls out, but I want you to concentrate.
Well, he wasn't my coach in those halcyon days.
Ah, well, who was? Who was?
Now listen.
Who was your coach?
Well, Kennedy and Parkin.
Oh, so Ellen. All right. Well, so Kanga Kennedy would have said, "Now, Don, I'm going to cut your balls out because you're drifting a bit. You get over by the boundary of the boundary throw-in, and if there's a fair piece over the boundary, you just lose interest. And I want you to see if you can get the ball for 100 minutes of the game rather than just drift in and out of it."
Do you think Bobby Davis would have said that to you?
Fair dinkum, unbelievable. Sam, please. He said, "We're going to not only cut your agates off, we're going to cut your dick off too, because you're like a Geiger, you're like a compass without a rudder." Fair dinkum, unbelievable. No, he wouldn't have said that.
Now listen, talking about football, have you known of maybe 4 clubs that are badly managed, as what we're experiencing right now in AFL? St Kilda number 1, Essendon number 2, Hawthorn number 3.
Badly managed?
Yes, over the Indigenous thing.
Oh, man.
And North Melbourne. Has
fair
it been
point.
any time in the history or recent history that you got 4 clubs that you couldn't write a script,
4
a movie?
Melbourne clubs.
Well, they're 4 Melbourne clubs, but you couldn't even write a script,
No,
a
you
film
couldn't.
script, the way these clubs are performing.
Just on the
Off the ground.
Just on the Hawthorn. I see Hawthorn trying to bring a close to this Indigenous saga going on, and the sticking point. Of course you'll believe this. The people concerned wanted an apology, and have a guess what else they wanted.
I won't go there because I think I've been told, but I would be betraying a confidence. I hope you've got it. Go on.
They want money.
Yeah, well, go on. Just give me a bit more.
They want an apology.
Yes.
But I got a feeling the apology is just a bit of window dressing.
Yes.
They want money.
Yes, but they don't also want to be named. And what do they want the money for?
I don't know.
I think you want to go into why
right.
they need the money.
Can we not say that?
No,
In
because
case-
I'd be betraying a confidence.
Well,
and
you wouldn't
also
know if you
these
don't
people,
tell us who said
hang
that.
on, these people are not prepared to be named. So how can you get money and whatever else?
It's a raw.
It is an absolute
and that boy Clarkson, and that boy, what's the other boy's name?
Fagan,
They have
and
been
Jason
thrown
Bird.
under
Hang
the
on.
bus by the
And
most
also Andrew
disgraceful-
Newbold, the commissioner, has stood himself down. But what you to go on
tell you
about?
why we put up with it. And we don't put up with it. We don't put up with it here. This is look. We've mentioned this that the patronising way that this competition is run in deference to what is going on with the Indigenous players. I reckon most of the Indigenous community are embarrassed about what a free ride and how we pander to Indigenous players when they actually don't want to be pandered to, but the activists round all these people up for effect.
Okay, and also interesting in the last week that the man that released the story on Hawthorn for the ABC, Russell Jackson, on Twitter expressed certain views, his views with regard to North Melbourne. Sonia Hood came out and in an open letter, and he so-called misinterpreted what she said. He was very critical and scathing on Twitter. He received a legal letter from Sonia Hood, who is the president of North Melbourne, and he's had to apologise and take the Twitter down.
Yep.
Now, that is the man that let the story go.
Yep.
The people who made the accusations wouldn't be named. So I don't believe there's anything to go, and unless people can come forward and substantiate the claims, there is no claim.
It's a disgrace, and we still haven't got any information about the people who invaded the ground on grand final day We haven't found out what penalty they received and if they were suspended from going to the ground ever again or for a period of time.
But isn't that a civil matter? Don't the police do that?
No, the police don't do that.
Why?
That's up to the AFL run their.
But they engage the police for security.
I don't think they do. The
Well,
police
that
are
must
there
have
to
changed.
crowd behaviour, but I think if people enter the ground, that is the premise of the AFL, and not only haven't they released, as I understand it, the name of the people that invaded the ground, but they haven't told us have they been fined or whatever, because they're Indigenous.
Talking about St Kilda, we just mentioned.
And as I say, the Indigenous community, I tell you, they're embarrassed about some of the stuff that goes on. And that stuff on Grand Final Day, the 3 references to Indigenous Australia, and the fact that they made an AFLW woman a Muslim, the face of football, quite rightly so, but she wouldn't wear the Pride uniform, and yet we've spoken to the doc about the Diamonds, the netball side not wanting to wear a jumper that was associated with Gina Reinhardt's company, Hancock Mining. And someone said they also wouldn't wear it because they haven't got a good track record with climate change. I mean, seriously, you can, as the doc said, you can find a problem with any sponsor. Toyota sponsor the AFL. What happens if people say, oh, we don't like fossil fuel cars, we're not going to buy Toyotas, or we're not going to bet at or drink alcohol, or does any sponsor can have a charge levelled at it that you don't want to, the tail ends up wagging the dog. But mind you, Don, I wouldn't wear a jumper I wouldn't wear a jumper.
Either would I.
I wouldn't wear a jumper that I didn't agree with
Exactly.
the sponsorship. So it's up to the due diligence of the people who run the team to say, if we sign these people up as a sponsor, are you comfortable with that?
Or even wearing these particular Guernseys,
Yes.
like Gay Pride, whatever else. I wouldn't be...
Well, not necessarily all that. But
now,
not
just on
necessarily.
another note, on a sporting note, I would say Ross Lyon, if I was a betting man, I would say Ross Lyon is going to be the next coach of St Kilda.
Well, he's been interviewed 3 times now, so
That's
why would
right,
they
and they've
bother?
come after
Would you
him.
think that's a good idea?
Well, again, the football
How is
clubs...
he-
No, hang on. Football, it's very, very hard for new talent to come into AFL. Okay, he's got a track record, but the football people who make the decisions are not willing to put their reputations on the line.
They jump into the lifeboats.
And give somebody else a try.
Correct.
A try. Now, it's a safe bet. You say, oh, he's coached this and he's done that. And so all of this stacks up. But, you got Craig McRae at Collingwood this year. Luke Beveridge, when he first went, they got the opportunity, new talent, and they did well.
Was he well regarded as a coach at Fremantle, Ross Lyon?
Well, he
Do
got
you
them
know?
again, you go back to the credentials.
Credentials.
And he got them into a premiership, didn't he? And they were a force.
Right, good. That's
He got St Kilda into 2.
Okay.
He's got them into 2, but they haven't won. So he's been there 3 times
All right,
and haven't won.
it's very, very hard to win, though.
Now, listen, in 14 days' time, what are you doing on a Sunday? It's the 6th of November. They've got the Australian Show Jumping Championships
Come
down
down,
at
do some
Bonio.
filming.
Well, I'm not going to ride, but
You're not?
No, but listen, it's
Why
a
not?
good day. It's a good day out. You could bring one of those beautiful cars you've got out the back there. Take the top off.
And what would we do? We'd go
Well,
around
we could
and-
sit at the Arilla restaurant and have something to eat. This is a restaurant in between the 2 show jumping rings. You can buy.
Now,
You can shout.
I've got to get on to Kate
So
Say.
the 6th of November, Sunday, the best show jumpers in Australia competing straight down the freeway, Peninsula Link. You get to the end.
I know how to get there.
Okay, well, you go right past it when you play golf with
Now,
Kate Shank.
I know, I go past it every...
It's just past Bunnings store.
Now, we're going to get on to Kate Save and Be Fit Food, but
Another
I just
Peninsula
want to
success
quickly
story.
say, this is talk about laziness and ignorance. Have you noticed that you go down beautiful tree-lined avenues and boulevards, and you'll look at some of the most magnificent trees that have been growing for 25, 50 and 100 years, and to make sure that the power lines don't interrupt with the foliage or the branches, they cut the trees into a V. So you've got these magnificent looking trees with the middle cut out in a V so that the power lines don't touch.
So what's your solution?
How about we take the power lines down and put them under the ground instead of bastardising and defacing magnificent trees in boulevards and streets?
That's a major infrastructure project.
It is.
I'm not arguing with you, but that is a huge. It should have been done years ago. No foresight, I suppose.
Well, then, with all the parking infringements, do you know how much? Do you know how? Do you know what a parking infringement, or if you go through a speed camera, it's $475, or if you overpark your car, overstay it at a metre, it's some horrendous amount of money. Surely the councils could work out how to save the aesthetic look of a boulevard or a street where they've grown these trees for 50, 100 years, and suddenly they cut the living suitcase out of it just so the power lines won't touch the branches. It looks ridiculous, it's lazy, and it's ignorant.
So if you put the power, well, maybe there's a way around it. You'd have to cut the root system if you dropped it in the same vicinity, wouldn't you, as a power line, so it might upset the tree anyway.
So Kate Save from BeFit Food, we ran a competition last week that Kate was in here, and she said she wants to help people lose weight and be fit, and she her company BeFit Food won the Peninsula Award for whatever. We mentioned that last week, and she said that she wanted to give 10 people a chance to win a month's supply of food, I think. I'm just trying to remember this off the top of my head. And that if you wrote in and you were a winner, you wrote in and to say why you wanted to be a recipient of this free package of food. And she was inundated. She was inundated. I've spoken to her on the phone, and she sent me all the emails of people who have written in. Well, not all of them, but some of them. And they've had tremendous response to it, people who listen to this podcast. So she's trying to make sure that her company is part of the health program of people. And I know it's a advertising promotion campaign, but we're happy to be part of it, Don, because if it makes people lose weight, because people
Have you sat and watched people? I've started to do it at a coffee. Jeez, there's some obese people around.
So this is what Kate said, and I'm going to read this out. It said, last week, BeFit Food offered our listeners, this is our listeners, a chance to win one of 10 metabolism resets to lose 5 kilograms over 5 weeks. In order to win, our listeners had to say, this is our listeners, Don, had to say how this would transform their lives. Now, I've got not documentaries. I've got what do you call it when you read out someone's? I'll think of that
testimonies.
Testimonials, Don. Well done. I've got many testimonials here. I actually won't read them out because
it might be embarrassing. For
they're not embarrassing because they only have their Christian names out. But some of them are really tear jerkers.
Really?
Yeah, they are. The outpouring of stories that they have received are incredible, that we have received, and how this would not only personally benefit them, however, impact those around them. We want to share some stories with you, so I'm not going to read them out, and have a go at winning this amazing prize valued at $500 each. We have decided, this is Kate, has decided to extend the competition for one more week, so head straight across to the Instagram account of BeFit Food, and it is, now listen to this, Don, it's at, you know, that little at thing, the thing with the loop round,
go on.
At BeFit Food Australia, at BeFit Food Australia. That's it, all lowercase, at BeFit Food Australia. It doesn't say .com or .brs or anything. It's at BeFit Food Australia. So they've extended the competition for another week, and eventually Kate will decide who are the winners, and we'll announce them if we might get her in again. We'll announce them, and this is a chance again to, it was so successful, she is putting her money where her mouth is. This is costing her money, but it's also giving her promotion, so it's a quid pro quo thing. But Be Fit Food, Kate Save, and she is trying to, this was on the top of us saying, why are people advertising?
Have you tried that stuff
models?
she left for you last week?
Yes, I have.
I had the smoothie. You know those...
I don't like the smoothie.
Don't you?
No,
Why?
because I don't eat fruit. But
You're joking.
no, the smoothies are fantastic, I'm told, but I didn't want
Why,
to.
you don't eat fruit?
No, I don't.
Why?
I just don't like it.
You
But
joke.
that's nothing to do with Kate Saves Food.
Why don't you like fruit?
Because I don't, Don. Do you like, what don't you like? Do you like Brussels sprouts?
Brains?
Why
Liver,
don't you like
tripe,
brains?
tongue?
Yeah, you offal.
Offal.
Why don't you like offal?
Because I was fed it as a kid.
Yeah, well, I was
And
fed it at school as a
What?
kid. Fruit.
Fruit?
And I didn't like it. It was rotten and all that. And old.
What did the grammar?
Don, doesn't matter why I don't like it.
Well,
So
has their
I'm
menu
saying-
improved since you've left?
Listeners, get onto this. At Be Fit Food Australia, and you can still be eligible. We're extending the competition for another. Don't break that thing, Don.
Shut
Please
up
put it
and
down.
concentrate on what you're
You're
doing.
ripping my bloody
Yeah.
iPod thing out.
Jeez.
So get onto it, and
Conference.
Kate will tell us who has won a very, very prestigious prize, $500 worth of Be Fit Food for a campaign to lose money, to lose weight.
She was a very good runner in a day, Kate. Cross-country runner.
You've got the concentration span of a whipfly, Don.
Geez, I'm just so sick.
You're so sick of what?
The way you waffle on.
Well, all right. This is the last thing I'm waffling on about. This will make you feel insignificant, Don. I want to read this out to you. This fascinated me. Just tell me if you think this is fascinating.
While you're waiting, have you watched the emergency reports that come on about the floods? Why does Andrew Crisp
Andrew Crisp.
Crisp.
Who is he?
He's the
Helen
bald-headed
Steele?
gentleman in a white shirt that's got colours and what do you call them? Bars, coloured bars, and that on his heart.
Lapel.
No, lapel goes around your
Oh,
neck.
well, what it's-
across the chest. You
Yeah.
know those bars, those colours.
Yeah, fruit salad
service
stuff.
or whatever
Yep.
else, and on his epaulets, aren't they on
Epaulets,
the shoulder?
yep.
On the shoulder, and he stands behind whoever's giving the report. In charge of.
Does the sign language?
No, does nothing. He is the Victoria Emergency Management Commissioner, and he stands there like a corpse.
What about the person who does the sign language?
So, no, she's out,
Hard
or
of
they
hearing.
are out. They're off camera. We don't see them, but we see Andrew Crisp on the left shoulder of this particular gentleman, and he just stands there, doesn't say anything.
Is that a rort, those people
I
who
don't
do
know.
sign
What does
language?
he stand? Yeah, but hang on. What about him standing there? What is he out working?
Andrew
It's our money.
Chris.
It's our money he's using.
Right.
Well, we're paying for his salary.
Now, Don,
our taxes.
Don, I'm finishing. We're finishing on this, Don.
Why?
Well, you got any more? I want to read this out. This
I just
fascinates
want to
me.
talk about our roads again. They're shocking down our way, and we've got rain coming again. And the federal government, he's given $2 billion to Andrews Albanese to do that rail link. Have you seen that? Why doesn't he fix up the infrastructure?
Did you see the Greens want to put a super bicycle highway through Melbourne for $2 billion, not million, $2 billion, make a super bicycle highway through Melbourne?
What, underground?
No, just they want to develop a bicycle highway.
Where would you do that?
$2 billion.
Do the Greens ever think practically about what they're doing?
The Greens just say
I think
anything
they
because
just
they know
throw-
they'll never get into government. They
They
never
just
have
throw
to put
red
them-
herrings out there. They don't think of anything. They don't
Most
think of the ramifications or
completely
how
useless.
they do
And
it.
is that Bant man that runs it?
Yes,
That,
Lydia Thorpe.
that dog who wouldn't...
No,
hang on.
Steady down,
That
please,
dog who would not
please.
stand in front of the Australian flag at a press conference. You cannot get more treacherous than that, Don. wouldn't stand in front
The
of
other
me.
thing that
if you're
that irks
representing
me,
this,
if
you're
you're
being
so much
represented
against
in Parliament.
If you're so much against what Australia stands for, why do you accept your wage each week?
But Don, that's just too
under
logical.
false pretences.
Too logical. Now I'm going to read this
You've
out.
just
If it kills
pulled
me.
the things down off.
No, I didn't.
You did. Your leg. Oh no, you didn't. Look at it. It's wrapped around your bloody foot. The cord. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Don't blaspheme.
All right, here we go. This is it. Don, this fascinates me. Astronomers, this is from Washington in America. Astronomers have observed the brightest flash of light ever seen from an event that occurred, wait for this, 2.4 billion light years ago. 2.4 billion light years, they've observed the brightest flash of light that has ever been recorded from a telescope circling the Earth, and it's taken 2.4 billion light years. Light travels at 60,000 kilometres a second. Multiply that by 2.4 billion light years. So it says, reading on. Astronomers observed the brightest flash of light ever seen from an event that occurred 2.4 billion light years from Earth, probably triggered by the formation of a black hole. The burst of gamma rays, the most intense form of electromagnetic radiation, was first detected by orbiting telescopes last month, and after its glow is still being seen, and it happened 2.4 billion light years ago. Astrophysical scientist Brendan O'Connor says gamma ray bursts that lasted hundreds of seconds, as occurred on Sunday, were thought to be caused by dying mass stars more than 30 times bigger than the sun. And many scientists, I'm saying this now, Don, many scientists say climate change, this is exactly what affects the weather on this planet, is the interaction between solar flares from the sun and the moon, and has nothing to do with CO2 emissions. And
I think some emissions do, John. I mean, cars are not a healthy option.
And cars exhaust don't give you clean air in the city. It gives you smog, but it has nothing to do with climate change.
How do we get rid of smog?
By burning cleaner fuel. No, that's all right.
Yeah, but I mean, it goes into the atmosphere, so it's not good.
Well, hang on. So remember
there are some things that are not good.
Do you remember the big thing about 4 years ago?
Yeah, a hole in the ozone layer.
The hole in the
aerosol cans and all the rest.
No one's ever mentioned anything about that because it's closed up. It has nothing. So, Don, this is the final thing I'll say about this. The flash released this is the thing. The star explodes in a supernova, collapses into a black hole. The matter forms a disk around the black hole, falls inside and spews out a jet of energy that travels at 99.999% the speed of light. The flash released protons carrying 18, I can't pronounce the word, of energy, which is the equivalent of 12 zeros with 18 with 12 zeros behind it. Measure how far would that be, Don? 12 zeros. Does that make you feel insignificant? It's like when you go. Have you ever been to Africa to a game
No, never.
The first time you go out to Africa, to the Okavango Delta, and see in their natural habitat a lion, it is the most humbling experience you'll ever see. You're sitting in a Jeep and suddenly this thing stands up in front of you. It's got a head bigger than yours, Don. It's got a huge head that you couldn't fucking measure with a tape measure. And you think, shit, look at that thing. You feel so insignificant, Don. I feel insignificant most of my life.
So you were humbled?
Humbled, Don. And then you see, you don't see tigers because they're not in Africa, they're only in Asia. Then you see jaguars and leopards.
Jaguars?
I'm not sure if you see jaguars.
Aren't they South America?
Maybe, Don. Maybe a Freudian slip there. And then you see hippos and rhinos, and it is extraordinary. If you ever have a chance, you ever been to the Okavango Delta?
No.
Right, you'll probably never go again. Why don't you ride one of your horses over there one day?
Eaten.
Anyhow, Don, I think we're done now.
No, hang on. Just while we finish.
Quickly.
You talked about the Greens before and going off about the thing. They've captured our Peninsula Council, the Shire Council down there. I talked earlier about how Councillor Bessinger says that trees have got a case. We could be sued by a tree because we're losing the canopy. You know, they just want to go back a few years and look at the peninsula, the old photographs. There wasn't a tree on the peninsula in a lot of areas. And the problem is it was 6 votes to 3 to put this new proposal through. They've also gone on strategies of hand cleaning the beaches. They want urban forest strategy, and $50,000 was spent by the Mornington Peninsula Shire on a koala count. Can you believe that our rates we used, $50,000 was used to count the number of koalas on the peninsula?
Don, this is the beauty of a democracy.
Hang
if you
on,
don't
mate.
want people like that to run your life,
Wow.
you don't vote them into power.
And over COVID, if you do remember, the Shire President or Mayor wrote an email or a tweet or whatever else on helping the residents with their sex lives.
I remember that. So
From the Mornington Peninsula.
So
they've named the aquatic centre down there an Indigenous name. You don't refer to the Rosebud Aquatic Centre by the Indigenous name, you say the Rosebud Pool. I mean, why no? It's ridiculous.
So in Parliament in Switzerland and in Sweden, Don, this parliamentarian asked a representative from Pfizer, because I watched it, I've got it on my phone here. His question was the COVID vaccine tested before it entered the market was it tested
in the traditional way?
Was it tested to stop the transmission of the virus before it was released? And the woman said, who's representing, said Pfizer, no.
Exactly.
We had to rush it onto the market.
That's right.
It was not tested,
That's
and there
right.
have been that many side
We knew all that.
Well, no, but so
Doc Peterson came in and told us all that.
Don, but I'm just saying it is now the woman from Pfizer, the spokesperson woman, said no, none of it was tested.
Exactly, we knew all at the time.
Yet we
I
have
know
this country,
it was a political
we
rort.
have this state lockdown.
I know.
The most draconian measures for 2 years.
I know.
When none of that stuff worked,
And we were
it
only
didn't
given...
didn't stop the virus, and the side effects of pregnant women, men's potency, the effects on children, the abnormal heart rhythms and defects. None of it has been tested,
Exactly.
and it has been the greatest rort in the history of the planet. That we had
Rob
this state
Peterson
closed down for 2 years when none of this was tested or ever proven.
And Rob Peterson came on and told us that in the middle of COVID, the doctor, he said, I can only speak because I've now retired as a medico. Had he have been still practising, he would have been disbarred.
If one reason why Dan Andrews' government should be thrown out, that is it.
And Peter Credlin's doing an expose on Andrews. Well done, Peter Credlin.